just because you think your life is over doesn't mean it has to be over. It could just be the end of that chapter of your life, you know. But you gotta believe that there's more for you out there. You gotta believe that there's somebody who loves you out there. You gotta love yourself. That's probably the hardest part. So I was born into music. My mom and my grandfather both played. My mom was a Christian country artist. When I was a kid in the 90s, she had a couple of hit singles that hit top 5 on Christian country radio. I think you don't even realize that it's actually not normal for most people to be around music so much, especially like people creating and composing music. But for me, that's just how it always was. It's how I started. That's how a lot of people start. I started playing in church, you know, singing with the band and playing guitar, and then my brother played drums, and my sister sings and plays. We all can sing and play. But I'm the only one who sort of took it and ran with it. I got the songwriting gene for sure.
These boots were my grandmother's, Tony Llamas and star-studded limited editions. In 1960.
Most people you talk to in country music grew up singing in church. I mean, that's kind of where we come from. It has a lot to do with the base of the genre. And also, most of us in country music grew up playing in beer joints, bars, rocking on Saturday night, and church on Sunday morning. It's been written a lot because that's kind of where a lot of us come from. And I think our faith in God is a little complicated that way, because you got a lot of churches don't believe those two can meet, and a lot of us, they do meet. That's one thing I appreciate about Briana is she's working in little beer joints, this, that, playing private parties, anywhere she can to take her guitar and sing her songs and do her thing. That's what you got to do, and that's what I respect.
You know, I've only been really pursuing my music for a couple of years now, and things have been rolling. You know, I've been getting some good feedback, some attention, and, you know, some people are starting to notice.
There's a lot of artists that are really kind of what I call chasing the industry tail, because as a writer, if you're writing what you feel like is what's on the radio, you're usually behind. Briana's songs don't sound like what's on the radio to me. There's great turn of phrase. She's kind of doing her own thing, which to me is interesting. You know, she seems to kind of be doing her own thing, and that's cool.
I've learned messy ain't for me, and if you're lying on them, then you're lying on me. And if you say that you pray, baby, I do too. Let's pray that I don't go country on you. Cause I'm from Louisiana in the dirty, dirty. You was looking at my man and acting kind of flirty. Hold up, where you at? You ain't gotta do all that, I take it back. No cap now, Jesus on me back now.
Like, even though the record was great that I did up here last time, it was a little too safe. So, you know, we've got 6 songs that we're recording, and it's honestly just been nuts. We spent 14 hours in the studio the other day, besides from a little lunch break, just trying to get all the instruments tracked. I love the stuff that I recorded in Louisiana. That was just such a good growing and learning experience for me. But at the same time, I still don't feel like I've just really captured who I am as an artist, because it's not just about my music, it's about my story. You know, anybody who really knows me well knows that.
So, you know, I met Briana through music, and that's like how the intro was and everything, but she changed my life by listening to her on this couch. And when I heard her story, I said, there are so many people in this world that need that.
So even though I grew up in church, that did not stop me from having some pretty traumatic experiences, and some of them were related to people in the church. And I got hurt pretty bad. And this was over years and years of honestly just experiencing what I like to call wolves in the church. And I, turned my back on God. I didn't really want anything to do with it because I associated that with pain. And this was by the time I was 16 years old. And I'd just been living in that pain for so long that when I was introduced to drugs, I didn't really care at the time if they were bad. I just knew that they made me feel better, and I wanted to feel better because I'd been, well, now looking back, I'd been clinically depressed for a really long time, but I didn't know that then, You just, in that moment, could never have known how bad things were actually going to get.
But if these boots could talk, they'd tell you all the time they had to walk away. No telling what they'd say. They didn't stop love. But if you shot them up, they look good after the first time you tried them on.
So I managed to hold it together, at least to the outside world, for the next 6 years, but I was deep into addiction. I mean, I was able to finish my bachelor's degree even though this was going on, and nobody knew how bad it really was. I mean, nobody. But it was just getting to the point where I couldn't hide it anymore. It was catching up to me. After I graduated from college, I lived in a lot of different places, which in one of my songs, Boots, it talks about it: Florida, Georgia, Tennessee. And it was almost like drugs found me. Everywhere I would go, like one of the first people I would run into would offer me something.
I started wearing them in college, festivals and concerts. I saw Garth Brooks and Bob Dylan in them. I called them my heel kickers, mud diggers and roach killers. They went everywhere from Tennessee, Florida, Georgia, Myrtle.
So I got in trouble for the first time when I was in Georgia. I got arrested, and I was actually stealing necessities, but I was stealing because I had only a certain amount of money in my purse, and I needed that money for drugs, and I knew that I was going to get sick if I didn't have it. And I was actually working as a journalist at the time for a really small town paper. So again, really good at hiding, I moved down to Florida, and instead of things getting better, they just got worse. I ended up catching another charge. My mom brought me back to Louisiana, and she told me, this is your one shot. I bailed you out, I helped you out, but if you get in trouble again, you're on your own. And my mom was really smart for doing that. I know a lot of people think that sounds kind of harsh, but that's honestly the best thing you can do sometimes.
Dark, crowded, and empty streets, wearing us both down to our souls. How we made it out alive, man, I still don't know. But if these boots could talk, they'd tell you.
So went to Louisiana, same thing, went to rehab, met people that taught me even more about drugs, was forced to go to a halfway house, met people that just taught me how to hide it better, more about drugs. And by this time, I was basically, if I wasn't in a halfway house, homeless, just living where I could. And it was about, I don't know, probably a year and a half of that, 2 years, where I was either in an institution or homeless. And, things got bad, really, really bad. I will just say that I was a junkie. I straight up was a junkie. I was a shell of myself. I could show you a picture and you would literally not think it was me. Nobody does.
She is confident. She's a go-getter. She has passion, and whatever she puts to her mind, she goes after it, and her voice is so beautiful. And then I saw a picture of, where she was, and her telling me these stories that I said, are you sure this is the same person I'm talking to?
I'd been, out of my latest stint in jail, and I was actually sitting inside a doghouse in these slums, this ghetto little town. I had just got done using, and I'd already, OD'd a couple of times. And I just knew that I was going to die if I kept going this way. There was absolutely no way I could continue. I knew it.
I had gone so far down into this deep, dark hole. I was just at the end, like I could feel it in my heart. And, you know, I just asked God to help me. And I didn't feel anything at the moment. I wasn't feeling anything at all for years, so. But I just had that one little, like, ounce of faith. Maybe I can get out of this. And that's all it took. Because not even a week later, a bounty hunter came and picked me up. He dragged me out of the house I was staying at, the couch I was sleeping on, kicking and screaming. And, you know, I think it's because I hadn't showed up for something and there was a warrant. So I ended up doing 18 months of time, and half of it was in a county jail and half of it was in Louisiana Correctional Institute for Women.
When I got locked up, they would only let you wear tennis shoes. Mama would call it putting money on my books. I'd say, Mama, when I get out, first thing I'm gonna do when I get back home is put my boots back on. Yeah.
Yeah, I think her faith and her music are definitely connected. It's interesting because she's got a grit to her, but she also has faith. I like to think I got the same thing going.
You know, when I found out that I was going to be doing time, I thought my life was over. I'm like, that's it. It's over. And I got really depressed. I got suicidal. Because, you know, I thought nobody's gonna want to, like, give me a chance when I get out of here. You know, I just thought it was the end. But the longer I was in there and the longer I stayed sober, the crazy thing is I could feel myself healing. I could feel my brain healing itself. It took about 6 months after about 8-9 years of using, yeah. Then, you know, I started just really working on myself spiritually and just trying to deepen my relationship with God and figure out who He was and who I was. Because I just said to myself, I don't think anything of myself, but if you say I'm good enough, if you think I'm worthy, if you see value in me, then we're just going to go with what you think, God. We're not going to go with what I think. We're going to go with what you think. And I just, like, clung to that thought. Like, you think I'm good enough. You say I'm worthy. You think I have value. And I just try. Anytime negative thoughts would come into my mind, I would just push them out, and I would look in the mirror in my little jail cell, and I would just be like, when you get out of here, you're not going to look like an addict, talk like an addict, walk like an addict. You're not going to hang out with any addicts. Nobody is going to know unless you want them to.
You go on, look at everything you do, accept it, don't argue. When you gonna learn, girl, when you gonna turn around and see your worth, girl?
I think her story is going to influence her career, because I think she's proved to herself that she can overcome adversity. She overcame a real adverse situation.
You know, I got out and I just tried to, like, look as classy as possible and not associate with anyone I knew that was still in that world. And, you know, was going to the little church I grew up in, but it was just totally different, like different pastor, everything. And they helped me out, and I was able to start working at our town's little paper. So I was working for the Farmerville Gazette, then I started working for the Leader, and I did that for a couple years. And I just really started making some pretty good relationships with people in politics. So I remember one day I was sitting in the office of the school superintendent of Lincoln Parish, and, you know, he told me, "Bree, you need to be a teacher." I was like, "Oh, thank you." And he's like, no, I'm serious. Like, we have a job opening, and I want you to be a teacher, an English teacher for 8th grade. This teacher's moving, and I'd love for you to do it. And I was like, well, that'd be great, except, there's one little problem. And I told him, and he was like, wow, I can't believe that. And I said, well, it's true. I'm not going to be able to get my license. That's a public school. And he's like, I think you need to do it anyway. And I'm like, sitting here thinking, did you not just hear the fact that I have like 7 felonies on my record? There's no way I'm going to be able to get my license. He just kept encouraging me. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it.
She got in trouble, like we all make mistakes. I can sympathize with that, like most everybody can. But she did something about it. So I admire her on those counts, and I think she has to reflect on that with her career.
Wow. Like somebody on the brink of death, to come from that, to turn their life around, and to just, she is the full package.
So I started going to school, started back to school to get my master's, started teaching, all the while thinking somebody's going to find out I'm gone, Around this time, too, during my first couple years of teaching, I met my husband, Jeremy, and, we got together, and then before we were married, I'd almost finished my master's degree. I'd been teaching a couple of years, going to school, working, et cetera, et cetera. All this time, this was just a huge step of faith for me. But I really felt led to do that. I felt like God was telling me, no, keep going, keep going. This is what you need to be doing. Keep going. So I did. And when I applied for my teaching license, I got denied, of course. Then I applied again, got denied again. And at this point, I'm like, see, God? See, like I told you. And I appealed it one more time, and the third time I got all of those senators and representatives and the people that I met during my time as a reporter to write letters into the state for me. Lo and behold, the state superintendent granted permission for me to get my teaching certificate. They gave me my certificate, and that was such a big relief. And, then I got married. We had a little girl, and things were rolling, and I was just being a mom and a teacher, and I was singing and playing here and there, but obviously I was so busy with other stuff. Again, it's always been my heart, but there's just been so much that's happened.
And it's a mystery, amazing, my whole world is changing, my only limit is the sky. You don't make me fall, you make me fly.
She has to realize when she's down that she has the ability to overcome adversity, and I think she'll make good use of that. And she's talented. That's the thing. You can read books about writing songs. You can go to school and learn about writing songs. But at some point, you have to have talent. There's a God-given thing that you can either do this or not. There's only so much craft to songwriting, and then there's heart and soul. And I think Briana's certainly got the heart and soul, and I think she's really learning the craft.
And so her story, I knew, was such a testimony to the power of God and how somebody's life can transform. But there's still people on the side that Briana used to be at. And so, I just wanted to encourage her that those people need you. And your past pain, your current pain is your future privilege. And I think, in the future, I definitely see her story and her music going hand in hand together.
I just knew, like, if you don't try to do something with your music and get yourself out there, you're going to regret it the rest of your life. But it's just sort of the same thing as the teaching thing. Like, I feel like this is what I'm being led to do, and so I'm doing it. And I'm taking the step of faith, the leap of faith out. And that was about 2 years ago, and I've pretty much been pursuing it as much as I can. I'm still teaching, still a mom, still a wife. So, it's tough, you know. I mean, I honestly, a lot of days, teach all day and then get home and do music all evening. And then on the little windows, I don't have to do either one of those. I'm trying to spend as much time as I can with my daughter and my husband. It's tough.
I mean, I would say if it weren't for my faith, I wouldn't be doing any of this. Because if it were just based on me and my capabilities, I probably wouldn't pursue it. Not to say I'm not good. I do. I believe in myself and I think I'm good, but I also think that God's on my side. I really do. I mean, I just do. I think that he's in my corner. I mean, I think he wants to be in your corner if you just allow him to be. And that's not because I'm special, one of his favorites or something. That's just anybody, just like allowing him to work in your life. So I'm just taking what I already know about my walk, my personal faith, what he's already shown me, you know, the miracles that he's just made happen in my life, and I'm just carrying it over.
Well, I can't imagine, unless you're just heartless, that her story wouldn't inspire anybody. You know, it's a great story, and it's not over. I mean, the rest of the story's on the way.
And so I'm just kind of waiting on God. I'm like I said, he says, let's go, I'm ready, wherever he wants to go. And I'm gonna bring my story along with me and, you know, hopefully just be able to reach somebody and help them out. Because I know what it's like to feel hopeless. I know what it's like to not want to live anymore. And it doesn't have to be the end. It doesn't have to be the end. It's not the end. And just people need to know that from somebody who actually has been where they've been.
Some of y'all wanna stay up in my business. Call one time, can't hit this, quit this. I got a rhyme and a reason for this. Witness, fitness, coming up like Christmas. When Becky wanna check me every week on Sunday, knowing she can't front me. Haters can't confront, see. So